Hey friends, Pastor Bill Walden here with Build Up the Church. God bless you. This is a word for March the 4th, 2024. In Mark chapter 10, we see Jesus continuing on in his march towards Jerusalem. He is headed towards the cross, and he's been explaining about his upcoming suffering and passion and suffering by the hands of the Romans and the Jews. He's been explaining that to his disciples, and they're just not understanding it. They perceived him as a political savior, when in fact he came to be a spiritual savior. On his way to Jerusalem, they go through the city of Jericho, and as they're leaving Jericho, they encounter a blind man named Bartimaeus, and that's where we pick up the story. Mark 10:46, this is what we read. Now they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. Now we know from John chapter 9, there was a man born blind, and Jesus healed him. And the Jewish leaders questioned him, and they said, "Who healed you?" And they inquired about the man's blindness. It had been from birth in John chapter 9, but the questions were, who sinned, this man or his parents? And the Jewish mindset in the first century of the religious Jews was that any kind of physical affliction was a result of sin, either the person's own sin, or in the case of a baby being born blind, it was the sin of his parents, or maybe even the baby sinned in the womb. And that was an extreme view, but that's what the Jewish mindset embraced in first century Israel. Now here in Mark chapter 10, we don't see that Bartimaeus was born blind. In fact, we are going to read that he wanted to regain his sight. But we can presume that as people were looking upon Bartimaeus as a blind beggar, many of them undoubtedly thought, well, he did something to deserve this, so he's getting what he deserves. So whereas some would have mercy on him, others would think, don't bother us. You, as the saying goes, you made your own bed, now you have to sleep in it. And so there would have been, at least from some people, a true lack of compassion. By the way, Bartimaeus, the prefix bar, B-A-R, is a Hebrew way of saying the son of. So Bartimaeus was the son of Timaeus. And he's by the roadside begging, depending on the mercy of people, just for life. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." This was a high title for Jewish people. The Jewish people understood through the Old Testament scriptures that the Messiah would come through the lineage of King David. And so to call Jesus son of David was a real statement of faith and a truer recognition of who Jesus was than many other people had. So he's saying, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." What I see here in Bartimaeus is that, probably for many reasons, people just didn't think he deserved the help. There's the disciples. They undoubtedly had some form of Jewish mindset. There was the great multitude. And then there were people that were just simply trying to shut Bartimaeus up. And once again, the mindset in that day was blindness usually is a result of sin. So you brought this upon yourself. Be quiet. Don't bother Jesus. You made your decision. You're stuck there. So just stay out of the way. But Bartimaeus would not be quieted. He had great faith in Jesus, calling him son of David. And he had great expectations, and he's going to be very persistent in his faith. Verse 49 says, "So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called, and they called the blind man, saying to him, 'Be of good cheer, rise, he's calling you.'" So wow, this persistence, this insistence, this faith that just pushed past the negative voices that were trying to shut him up. He just kept crying out to Jesus, and Jesus responded. Verse 50 has always fascinated me. "And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus." And he was blind. What if Jesus doesn't heal him? He's got to go back and try to find his garment. And the garment in those days was like an outer cloak that was like almost equal to having shelter in those days for people that were homeless. And so He's so excited and so full of faith, I think and believe, that he throws off this outer garment, which was very valuable to him, and he's got his spiritual eyes fixed on Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" Now, it was obvious. So Jesus is, to me, obviously trying to draw out a confession of faith. And the blind man said to him, "Rabboni, that I may receive my sight." And Rabboni was an exalted way of saying rabbi. So once again, great honor and respect and dignity given to Jesus and great faith. Then Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your faith has made you well." And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. What do we see about Bartimaeus? We're not told how he lost his sight, but if it was something natural or an accident perhaps, he was misunderstood and treated as such. He was treated as one who brought his own problems upon himself, and there wasn't a lot of mercy from the public. Undoubtedly, some were merciful, but many others would probably just turn away from him. But he would not be silenced. And somehow he had heard great things about Jesus, and now he's calling him Son of David, and he just kept pushing forward. And then finally, when Jesus said, "What do you want?" he was ready with an answer. And so he had great expectations, and he believed in the mercy and the power of Jesus Christ. And then he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. It's really interesting, too. Did he understand where he was going? Jesus is marching towards the cross. But Jesus had told all of his disciples, if you want to follow me, deny yourself and pick up your cross and come and follow me. So Bartimaeus was, in some ways, perhaps unaware about what a great model of disciple he was. So some thoughts for you. Thanks for watching.